Ladies and gentlemen, I have the great pleasure and honor to welcome Mr. Poul Lynggaard Damgaard to Poets of the East. We're going to be talking a little bit about his past, about his childhood, and then also we're going to have the pleasure of having Poul recite some of his own work. Poul, did I come anywhere close to pronouncing your name correctly, sir?
Yes, indeed. Yes, yeah.
Oh, good.
Um, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm in Tennessee, about the center part of the United States toward the East Coast, and you're in Copenhagen. Is that correct?
I'm actually right now on an island right now physically, and it's also the map in the background is the map over this island. Uh,
Ah, and what
so it's
island is it called?
it's an old map. Yeah, sorry. Yes.
What is the island called?
The name of the island, named in Danish, is Læsø. Yes. Yeah.
I just had
I
the
don't.
pleasure a
Yeah.
few months ago of reading a biography of the famous Hans Christian Andersen, and I learned a lot about himself, his life, his work. It was very interesting. I didn't know so much detail about him. He led quite an interesting life.
Yes, I don't know exactly so much about Hans Christian Andersen, but actually I know it from early my childhood when I uh, uh, have a kind of to sense the world and the stories and so on when I'm into the world, and so it's also a gift to me in my very early childhood, and I've heard the stories and I've been reading them from the beginning of my life, so to speak. Yes,
Yes.
um, yeah,
He
yes.
started as a very, very poor young man. And really, his father died when he was very young. His mother had to work very hard. So he had a difficult life. I hope you did not have so much challenge when you were young. I was wondering, what are some of the authors? Do you remember any authors that you were reading or having read to you when you were a child?
Yes, when I'm 5, 6 years old, so from that kind of, I've been reading and been told stories as well, and what the first things I was reading was also fairy tales, to be honestly,
Yeah.
and also and but then I'm a little older actually, also I think, so it's. So I don't know how to speak about it, but because me myself I'm from an island, and I remember also there's the culture on this island and to live on a little school and to wake up, uh, but also as a natural center of the world, to international center in the world, and center, and out of that I can sense the world and feelings, atmospheres. And actually, I remember on this school also that the young teachers were coming into my room where I slept to ring the bell and so on, and so to speak. So at this time, I'm 3 years old, and I have not been reading yet, but I actually on this time know what Hans Christian Andersen is. I suppose so, because what I can remember is to take part in a carnival at this time of the year, with dressing costumes and out of tradition, and to take a stick and to the barrel and to get the confetti out of it, to that tradition. So I have a consciousness about my person and Hans Christian Andersen and all these fairy tales and singings and so on. And but I
And
also, as a natural center in the world, I think also to sense how big the world is already. Yeah. So
were
it's many things in it. Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
on the island that you grew up on, was there a tradition of storytelling?
It is a very cultural perspectives, a very cultural consciousness. So it's I have a very good self experience in very early age. Actually, I would say that's not given to everybody. So So that's something I appreciate very much also in my life, out of
Were
this
you
Danish context. Yes, yeah, yeah.
were you encouraged to write when you were young?
Yeah, yeah, but not before school age. I will not say that at so early age. So because to write and to read and so on is kind of the school system, and so it's very close to language and education as well. But yes, I've been writing already from the beginning. So I've been writing at it. But to say out of my kind of writing, I'll say that it was my dad, and through traveling in mind and traveling in physically to support me and to say yes, right, and feel free about it and feel free in the world and write out of your own experience as well. So also not so, but then maybe later it is kind of the symbolic function and that interests me out of art and culture and literature. But so the imagery and how to dance in the world. I was in Czechoslovakia, Prague, together with my father when I was 5 years old, and also through to his kind of perspectives. And so that's from 82 to in the next 10, 15 years, where I've been traveling a lot in Poland due to his interests and also around 1990, 89, and so on. And I remember one trip when we was there, where we had a lot of gifts with us to give our clothes and also American badges and Coca-Cola and things to it was kind of a part of a project, I think, at this time. And so and I remember how to be in this country without a language because I couldn't speak language with the person I met. And I think that made a very big impression for me in that age, to be around 10 years old and to be together with people, to respect them out of that meeting and also engage, how to, and so on. And because it was, um, and also in a changing time around 90s, in the beginning of the 90s, and how to, and I was also growing up to be a teenager at this time. So it was, I think it was very important for me, and because it was also to the democratic values and actually my dad was a few years after Latvian married and Latvian Russian married, and so in my teenage home there it was language was English and Russian Latvian, and so it was in that atmosphere I was getting into the educational to yeah to become an adult, and so I became a teacher on a small island and became interested in literature through that, but also it was so that was the way into it, I think. So it's quite late I began to write actually, compared to but it's not true because I've always been writing, but I've not been aware about it until it got very physical to me. So
May I
so
ask?
that's yeah.
May I ask what kind of work your father did that you did so much traveling?
Well, it was in many different ways. He was traveling because he did it in several ways because but he made English speaking schools in Poland, but he was the bus driver. So but he was organizing it in many ways, and because he was talking with the people when he tried to and so on, but he could not speak that well English, but he took some English courses to get better. And so in early age I helped him at borders to talk with I don't know what the right word is, officials or something like that, and to so and I was always having a map to and finding ways or so on, and not we not always had maps, so it was not always possible, but so that was one thing of it. So he had his own company, you can say, but he was also working together with others, UNESCO and so on locally, and to have the school close on schools and so on. So, but it was these language schools was also, you know, to get people in Denmark to Poland and to engage in cultural meeting and to talk English with other people that they don't know and so on. And but also around 90 was also to get holiday children to Denmark and where they stayed in Denmark for a period of time and so on. So, but he was also a
Interesting.
tourist driver, so he was also to visit places. Uh, yeah.
That must have been a very interesting time for you to be growing up and doing so much traveling.
You know this, you know, and it was good for my imagination, I think, also, and for my personal development at that way. But it was also very difficult for me to put a word on, actually. But so I will not say it was just a free ride. It was also something. Yeah, yeah. It's that's but it was I liked that time very much actually. But it was also he was also driving buses on Balkan, and I visited Yugoslavia in 1990 or something like that holiday, and and he was driving tourists home or to the families, not tourists, but people in a difficult situation, and them back to their homes and so on. And later, I visited on a holiday trip Auschwitz in Poland.
Oh
It was
my.
important. Yeah, so yeah, but so it also has some mixed things in it, but but it's but it was yeah. So, but it all ended around 2000. It was like things were ending at that way uh, for me. Kind of.
You must have had some difficulties traveling with the Iron Curtain finally coming down and it's kind of the glasnost perestroika opening up of the Soviet Union and all the Baltic states.
Yeah, so I remember we had never cameras on us. We were never taking photos. I remember only one time in Prague to take pictures of this beautiful city, and I like Prague very much. But it was a difficult time, and it was also um, I learned a lot of it, and it made me curious on the world and everything in it. But yeah, I would say up to 90, it was made difficult in school because you cannot be different places. You have to be also where you are at that culture. So it's to be integrated in the culture and how it was. And um, but I liked very much to go in school. I liked it and to learn things and so on. Was
Were your
great.
teachers encouraging you to write? Did you have a teacher that said, "Oh, Poul, what a great writer you are"? Did you have people who encouraged you to write?
No. I'll not say that. I'll not say I met teachers at that period of time to encourage me to write. No, um, no. I'll not say that. No. So, but I remember to take part in the school play in school, and it was a bad experience actually because I wanted the leading role in it, but then the teacher decided it had to be the French Revolution, and the main character should be Marie Antoinette, and then yeah, and I got the last role, and it was a role without what they call it words, so and I wanted to say a lot and so on, so I got to be a rich what we call it uh, farmer to get into the guillotine. So I had to walk into the guillotine
Oh my.
and to yeah. And so, but there was no words, and I could remember all the actors I was together with that didn't say anything when they were going this way, and but I chose to be very acting in it, and I would say scream. I would say that was my approach to it, and to get into it. Yeah, but and I also had to let my own head roll, and it was a white cabbage. A cabbage I had to see fall into the basket. We did that many times and showed it to in school and so on. And yeah, I
Wow.
think that was it. It was difficult, because white cabbage was something we were eating at home. To in my father's mother and my father, it was a tradition out of many traditions and heritage actually. So it was also something very important. So of course, I don't think I was thinking about it in that way, but when I'm thinking back, I remember how difficult it was. So it was not easy to take part in this play, and I think that it influenced some things in my whole school time actually. But
Sorry to
that's
hear
also
that.
difficult. Yeah, yeah. But that's always remember you can always mix things together and say it, but I think there's always something truth in it. So I think that's right. So yeah.
Let me
Uh,
ask you this. Uh, when you think back to your years of learning in school, do you remember any writers who impressed you, who you thought, wow, that's a great writer? Do you remember any writers that made a big impression on you when you were young?
what I remember mostly was actually I was very interested in also history and the consciousness of it and so on. And right now in these days where actually I've been thinking about I was very interested in also, flags and so on. And I remember I was told in history that the Greenlandic flag was invented in 1982, and it was out of a competition where they had to choose between 12 different flags. And the only flag was not out of the crucifix, traditional like all Scandinavian flags are, was the one that was winning this competition, and it was a Greenlandic Danish um, um, architect designer that made this flag, and it's also I remember that with the sun over the eyes, it is like a circle like the other flags in the world, like Japan or Bangladesh or other things. So that was very interesting to me. I like geographic like a thing in school, and also to learn about different countries and how they where the structure was and how it was. Well, so to understand, actually, I was very interested, like a small group of islands named Nauru. It was the smallest country in the world, but it was out in the world for me to know. I didn't know what it was, but I think that was very interesting for me to learn um, my own identity in that way. I think so. So it was not so much the of course, there was a lot of uh, interesting things as well. Yeah. So
Let
yeah,
me ask you this.
yeah, yeah,
When obviously you're a person who had a very active mind, you're interested in learning, you're interested in history. When did you start to think of yourself as a person who is a writer? Do you remember that?
yeah. It is to express through images. I think there was first of the interest in art, and then the literature came afterwards. Actually, I think so. To my identity, I saw myself as an artist to express myself in images. But when I was a teacher on a very small island with only 100 lessons, I was writing so much that I could not tell myself other than I was a poet, an author in this place because I got so many notebooks being fulfilled with my own lyrics and so on out of this very isolated island. It's a very small island close to where I'm raised. So that was around 27 years old at that time, and so that really made me into this is my destiny. And then that was so obviously for me at that age.
So, are you both as well as a writer, are you also an artist?
At that age of 27, the artist. I think now I'm not only the artist. Now I'm also a writer.
I
So
see.
that I've been so at that time I've been being through the drawings and so on my whole life, and because I didn't have the words for anything, so it was, and my drawings were didn't have a motive necessarily. So it was, but the words coming through somehow or not coming through because I don't think that the words on paper was my own words. So it was like that also. So I had it at that time. And
Now,
yeah,
the art that you were doing, was it pencil sketches or ink or paint brushes, or what kind of art were you creating?
mm, yeah, yeah. I remember my impression of it because, as I said, my father was a bus driver, and we visited the Salvador Dali Museum when I was very young, and that made a very big impression on me. And that's how I saw myself, the expression, my drawings, because then I thought that this was very clear an expression out of that, because I think that made that I also I could feel that there was something that was working in me when I did it. So that was so I think that's around the age of that is in I'm 11, 12 years old. Sure. Yeah, 11 years old at that time. And before that time, I'd been making oil paintings, self-portraits, and portraits of other people, and making landscapes, mountains, and to make the fulfill them and make big mountains and like that. And yeah, so but then I thought, when I was not only painting my surroundings but expressing myself through something, that's the real artist. I thought so, and I never left that. So that was important for me at that age.
Do you still draw and paint today?
Yeah, I've done it today. Yeah, so I'm sitting here and it's very, but yeah, I'm expressing myself every day in some in somehow, and it's always important to also to yeah, to be in it. So it's when I'm very but when a lot of things is going on, I think it's easy go. So it's like the sketches. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if you have the time and you can send me a couple pictures of your
Yeah.
art, I'll
Yeah.
include them in the video.
Yeah. And actually, it is like that. I often have used it together with poetry and to support it like that, and also with poetry collections and so on, and to get into that. Yeah. That's but so it's yeah. So that's a part of it. Yeah. So I like it.
Well,
It's
I appreciate learning about
yeah,
you because
yeah,
I am
yeah,
also an artist as well as a writer. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
enjoy both things as well. And for me, one of my art fields is that I do political cartoons. So I do political cartoons almost every day. And I would love to include some of your work. So if you get a chance, whether to send me a scan or a photograph
yeah.
of your art, I would love to include it.
But it's very funny, because not funny because it's in school. I made a lot of cartoons when I was 8, 9 years old. Also to in school, and I remember that in the school to make a cartoon. I was really good at it, but I think that we had to make something with Walt Disney, Donald Duck, something like that, and it went into be big ships, and who can make the best ships, and I remember at that time, I think I couldn't. It was I still had the interest in reading comics and so on, but it was not there. I could get my to get my full expression. And I have been thinking about the latest days actually, why all these ships and so on, and what is the 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 symbol of it and so on, and it is like that when I'm thinking now, my dad is not living any longer, and I'm trying to find out also my heritage and where I come from and so on, and it is like that. That's many years ago, Dutch farmers came to Denmark and had a little village on an island and had a culture and there and where they were selling vegetables and making them and selling them. And it was the king at that time that invited these farmers to Denmark, and they were promised the whole island and to live there. And they lived on their own in their own community without having a big conversation with the villagers around. So it was a village on its own for 300 and years and even more. And but this when they were making the Paris system in 1841 or 1843, and they had been there already for several hundred years, and then they were the last Paris to get into this democratic system because and they had the symbol was the anchor, and the Paris next to at the seaside was the ship. So it was the anchor and the ship, and these symbols had been very important for them in many ways. And now it was into democratic development, and it's always difficult to say how it is developed and so on. But I think this is important also to the self-understanding of the Danish democracy at this time, and my own family was part of this also in 1700 and these years and so on. And I think there was a blacksmith, and there was my old father somehow, yeah. But it's yeah. So I don't know if it has anything to do with my own experiences, but somehow, yeah. So it's. I think I'm always a curious person, trying to find out also what's up and down and in the things and so on. And
I was wondering,
yeah.
what kind of books do you like to read for fun, for enjoyment?
Yeah, but there's some books, when sometimes, it's the sense of literature, sometimes, just to touch a book and you don't need to read it to understand it and so on. And sometimes, or maybe you have been reading this book once and you cannot tell why this book is so important to me or something. So there's, and also, never know what kind of book I have the real interest for. So that's kind of, so it's and I really like that and so there's many ways for the reading, but I'm reading and reading and reading also because I think it's always something that's but mostly I only read when I work actually some in big periods, so it's also like that. So yeah.
Do you read on the internet? Do you enjoy television? What do you do in addition to for
Yeah,
relaxation? Fun?
yeah, yeah. I like the physical book very much, and it's very important to me. And I prefer that. And you can also say, what about television and so on? And in the moment, I'm not watching television, and I've not done that for many years, and so. But I've also done that for many years, and so on. So it's. But I prefer not to. But I like to go on the internet and so on and see things and so on. But I think that's a very different discussion because what is it? How is it that developing our societies and so on? I think because then I'm actually very interested in all these kind of democratic talks of how we are developing and so on and how it's issued and but I think, the old television is very to lean back and not touch the screen somehow. So I've always had the expression that television is talking to me, and it's just getting into me. So that's how I look at that media. I like to watch films. I love it. It's like that. I like that very much.
Are you reading anything right now?
Um, Yeah, yes, but right now in this week, actually, or these weeks in this winter time, I only have one book at my table right now, and that's a Norwegian author, poet named Jens Bjørneboe from Nielsen, and a novel from 1950, and I've been reading a lot of his poetry, and now I'm reading this novel. And normally, I'm not reading that much novels in these years. And when I was young, I was reading more novels. So now, but I enjoy to read this. But it's very difficult because sometimes I read a novel and then I get stop. I stop because I cannot read it any longer because there's something I say, okay, I have to listen to this, and so on. But I also like to read a book to say, I finished it, I completed it, and so on. Yeah.
Well, now comes my favorite part of our interviews when I get to turn to you and say, Poul, please read some of your work for us. Tell us some stories. Tell us some of your poetry.
Yeah, yeah, and uh, yeah, and it is like this, to talk and to speak and so on. Because what is it that makes the feeling that you want to read a poem, and it's kind of the atmosphere to create it and to make the right places and so on, and but it has been very easy for me in many years because I think it is very up in the time to communicate in these ways also. So it is. I think the understanding of it is changing because I don't think in the public spaces that we talk in the same way that we did when I was a child. But maybe it's only my own understanding of time. But I think actually that we're not talking so much in the public space as we did. Don't have so many conversations right now when we meet in public space and that we had from some years ago. But that's my opinion. But it's like that. But yeah. But it is when to read poetry. It is because I want to 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 read it. Yeah, it is like
So
that. Yeah,
please, go ahead,
yeah.
read us some of your poetry.
Yeah. Sorry. And yeah, I read it in English. Normally, I read it both
Thank you.
English and Danish, but I read this poem read some years ago, and yeah, and I'm not. Yeah, I can talk a lot about it. Yeah. A single drop is a flock of birds, and there is a sun in all information that never condenses. A crowd divided into parts we don't understand, and the glow of the street we'll never hold between our hands. When the street turns into a new street, it becomes a light I don't know. I don't belong to this place. And you tell everyone at an open square that places are each other mirrors. The structures are changing. Open spaces are confused with splinters. Clear pearls and drifting time and damp air. Know the other mirror before you know your own. You want to participate, but you do not know yet in which room. Streets conceal something, and it's an unknown identity. Strangeness, it can explain our meeting, way of life, close to ourselves. I leave the dream for a long time, up against the house I don't want to lose. I can't tell the street from the land. Between fingers, I get to know a Paris. Wires between high voltage mats in the sleep of pigeons. When they call each other from opposite sides of what I perceive as place. Environments are crossed in an exchange of free systems next to a country, surrounding that diverge from the motion. You don't expect to meet anyone, and that's how the othermost point is sensed. Threads of straws in the understanding and views in the wind. What can be said against the treetop disappears in a foreign sound. Insects gather in a natural corner of the sky, without things a different direction for the encircled area. The landscape distinguishes between the mind and open space. Now we name the sea. There is a way for the searching one. Now we name the land. There is a way for the lost one. Now we name a stranger. There is a way for the beginning one. Now we name a friend. There is a way for the listening one. What all windows show is the wind beside itself. Tændt støv. Noget i folket er først baggrundsstøj for at blive til et punkt i stedet for en tanke. En glød tilgives for at være et blik. Det er enkelt at ændre vinden, men vi bor over for himlen. Som fuglen må man sige til verden, at man er alene. Vi må befri følelserne fra sig selv. Et lys, jeg kan holde ved, uden at noget løber ned ad himlen. Jeg graver i solen. Illuminated dust. Something in the people is at first background noise to become a point instead of thought. A glow is forgiven for being a glance. It is easy to change the wind, but we live opposite the sky. As a bird, one must say to the world that one is alone. We must free the emotions from themselves. A light I can hold on to. Without something running down the sky, I dig into the sun. Cyrene. Here is no community, but full of life. My horizon has put a back wall behind itself. I have rewound the sun to the region of a random country. Body as a sail, I will preserve the circle where no one thought it was possible. Landscape that defends itself. I carry the boat inside across a sea. Scratches. The country is not a new space with new spaces alongside. All souls are raindrops that never fall. The country is not a space. All countries are words in themselves. The country is not a space like any other. Riser. Landet er ikke et nyt rum, men nye rum op af sig. Alle sjæle er dråber, der aldrig falder. Landet er ikke et rum. Alle lande er i sig selv ord. Landet er ikke et rum som alle andre. The action of arrival. The action of arrival by fractals present in collections of times, drifting past in clusters, picked down as points that persistently enter soluble systems, where angels sing with laughter above and below existing conditions. Here the horses evoke the ancient city in the mind of an ego, which is recalled from stretches between the cities, which are impossible to depict by memory. Self emerges from anything but its dream pictures. It flows through the moment of speak and moves over great distances. Fragmented hands of clay, whose dust just circulates between violence. Antique jars fill the space. Aktiv ankomst. Aktiv ankomst af fraktaler, fremmødt i samlinger af tidspunkter, drivende forbi i klaser, plukket ned som punkter, der ihærdigt melder sig ind i opløselige systemer, hvor engle synger lattermildt over og under eksisterende vilkår. Her bringer hestene oldtidsbyen frem i bevidstheden på et jeg, som er hentet frem fra strækninger mellem byerne, der er umuligt at gengive i hukommelsen. Et jeg, som sjældent er givet ud for andet end dets drømmebilleder, gennemstrømmer momentet gestikulerende og bevæger sig over store afstande. Splittede hænder alléer, hvis støv netop cirkulerer mellem viadukter. Antikke krukker fylder rummet op.
So that
Yeah.
that is a somewhat older poem.
On the last one, I was one of my. It's a poem from around 2012, 11, or something like that. I've been writing that, and it was out of imagination of traveling in mind. And the next one I'm going to read here is actually also with a drawing inside it somehow. And I don't know why the drawing is in it, but um, but it's um, but it's also like this. Uh, I, I'm always thinking also on old poems and new poems, and always. And I like also these things, to get into it and get out of it, and how it gets into the context and so on, and yeah. So it's like that. This is from a book named Song of Wars, actually. Sorry I say, but I took this book along with me when I visited Cape Ann, Rockport in some years ago. Sorry, I'm saying that, but that was very interesting for me. And I'm raised in a little village close to the castle where Princess Anna of England, she's born and raised in 1700 something. I can't remember exactly, but so it was also interesting for me to get into to Rockport in that way and to visit this specific place as an island. And so that meant a lot to me, actually.
Really lovely work. I'm really
So,
enjoying it. And I'm glad you're
so
reading in English and Danish, both.
yeah, but yeah, and so, but Princess Anna is not a known person in Danish culture, actually. So I don't know much about it. So, and I think that's a common thing. And it's always difficult, to culture, but we all have our own impression of the world and how we see it. De tilmurede linjer over vandene. I en nat skal ingen sejle, og hånden fører blyanten på papiret, og tegner en forladt båd midt i søen med årene, langs siderne stillet til ansvar i bølgerne. Og når de drivende dage slår mål ud på en væg og kaster illustrationen op i et træ, der svejer fra side til side ved stien væk fra værelset. Her bor ingen langt fra havet, og hånden laver en ny skitse på den anden side af vandet. Brick lines over the waters. This night nobody will sail, and the hand will leave the pencil on the paper and draw an abundant boat in the middle of the lake, with the oars along the sides responsible for the waves. During the driving days, minor chords break out on a wall and throws the illustration up in a tree that sways from side to side by the path away from the room. Here no one lives far from the sea, and the hand makes a new sketch on the other side of the water. Hal. Kun når jeg ser mig tilbage i dine øjne klare svar, der fortæller mig, at det er inde i mit hoved, træerne springer ud. Alligevel går jeg frem i labyrinten, hvor blindheden er min styrke, og hver snif nu røres som en tanke. Der er ingen vej tilbage, og der er langt til det punkt, hvor havet falder ud af himlen, men når det sker, kalder jeg kaldene, kald i dit nærværs mørke. Jeg er et rart hav, det kan du godt tømme for idéer. Call. Only when I look back, your eyes are clear answers that it's inside my head the trees are blossoming. Anyway I go forward in the maze where blindness is my strength, and every snowflake is stirred like a thought. There is no way back, and there's a long way to the point where the sea falls out of the sky, but when it happens, I call the calls a calling. In the darkness of your presence, I'm a pleasant sea, which you may empty of ideas. Dear city, let me tell you about the gap between houses and the way the windows are beyond everything. Do you know anything about that? Do you know the way neighborhoods have been pulled on a string through your consciousness, and the groups of people emerge on the fringe of an area? I'm not sure you do. Sometimes the zipper of your coat is a downhill highway. When you turn your back, you throw your coat off, jump into the water and swim away. The shining of your long wet hair is the light of the night's illuminated space on the corner of the main road where the neglected house without window used to be. Booth has been placed where the gaps and the buildings, memories are being sold to visitors. Was it really your unknown brother, or was it just you? I looked into the eyes right there. Best regards, a house. A day without edges. In the plain, I recognized you and the light as a landscape behind you, to sit and wait not protected of mountains on all sides, touch of a knowing wind, while the yellow leaf drops from the tree. The leaves of the tree are falling against your mirror, a mountain peak lit by a street lamp in another landscape, far from all things that have been maintained. Change from solemnity to happiness. The day I did not speak with the birds, but where they gave me a message. The sun, like a ball beneath the mountain, you light a candle for me. Away, I'm sitting on a continental shelf, and I have no longer names for seasons. Uso is whining in my house, my world's intoxication. A wave always breaks. Seriously speaking, everything is sun, pushed to its limit, the moment of presence everyone dreams about. My noisy friends in a room near the sea, phrases set on formula, near a crumbled wall, a circle around the body as a spark, the memory of a wall created in something for itself. I asked someone to watch my language. There was not one single inquiry. The eye has moved on, compressed images, and everything that touches anything in motion. The natural area of wildness, I give a sound with closed mouth. A fish that gives everything from itself. In the middle of a sea, my sudden beginning. A dark home you say I should stay in to make it light. The dogs show each other the world history and the bodies. It is simple, just like the place where we sit. I tore up the sea, my bones will never become the same again.
Bravo, sir. Bravo. A lot of times, poets are we have to only read our shorter poems because of time. I want you to feel that you can stretch out. If you have a longer one you'd like to read, please feel free to read it.
Yeah. I think actually I've been reading some long poems now and also some short one in it, and I've learned also through actually also Rockford about the haiku and haibun traditions. Sorry to say it, but I'm not familiar with it like that. But of course I know to the haiku tradition and such. But how when and it is interesting like that. And also with the long poems, what is a long poem? And actually it's always about pages. And for me the page is a guideline to have a page and say a page is a poem and the continuously of it. But a page can when and then to switch between it. So I also like that in the reading to read them in other ways, and that's the long poem. What is the long poem? Yeah, and then and I think that's something always to work on.
Well, I really enjoy your work. You have a beautiful way of structuring your
Mm.
imaging.
But is it difficult all with the conversations and so on, yeah, but it's true. And but and the interview form and so on and what is it? I don't think I should be afraid of it, but actually, also, it's because you cannot be in like a stone all the time, or be like an island all the time, or, or how it is, but it's so right now I'm just thinking about a cave from my childhood, um, where the Russian bear was walking in, and like that. But that's many years ago that the bear was walking in that cave, and so on. And
I'll tell you what,
yeah,
let me share one of mine with you, and then you can
yeah,
read a couple more, okay?
yeah, that's great. Yes.
Okay. This is this is one of my environmental poems. It's a friend of mine asked me, she said, you know, Rick, you write a lot of sarcastic work. And, you know, it's sometimes difficult to listen to irony or sarcasm and, you know, write something positive. You know, you need to write something positive. And I said, okay, I do admit I write some very sarcastic work, and a lot of my political or environmental poems are written with my tongue in my cheek. So I said, I'll tell you what, I will do that. I will write a positive poem. So this is called Non-Disposable World. Picture it. A world without thermonuclear overkill. Bomb lost its thrill? It will. It will. Picture it. A world after all the bombs are gone. Too far, Mom? Bomb lost its thrill? It will. It will. Picture it. A world not holding its breath at the edge of death, the toxic waste, the chemical taste of food and money only good. Bomb lost its thrill? It will. It will. Picture it. No mad generals with pointing digit poised, ears pinned, fills with noise of shouts of doubts. Bomb lost its thrill? It will. It will. Picture it. A world after the end of biological weapons that fools would send and threaten. Bomb lost its thrill? It will. It will. Picture it. No fanatic, dramatic, climactic climate war. No inversions or floods or earthquake cone crunch. Too much heat then or dry. No clouds in the sky. No rain with lunch. Bomb lost its thrill? It will. It will. Picture it. No ray guns in space. No thistly whistly missiles to bless the stratosphere torn, or hot heads wind down, burn after space war. For afterthought, it had meant quite a lot. Bomb lost its thrill? It will. It will. Picture it. The bomb's gone. The missiles dismissal. The sub decommissioned. No reactors out fission. Picture it. The control board turned off. Did I hear a scoff? Bomb lost its thrill? It will. It will.
Well, yeah, great. Oh yeah.
So how about a couple more from our
Okay.
friend Poul?
The escape. I cannot smell the time I live in. I cannot taste what I receive. I cannot hear the sound that is put into my ear. I cannot feel the image that insists forever. I cannot see my thoughts that are constantly being moved. Waterland. Sale of food recipes. Why do you throw away paper? Why do you throw mountains? Why do you throw away food recipes? 1 minute before 3 o'clock is 2 o'clock. You painted pictures of a foreign central. Now the school teacher has been given a whip to beat with. The establishment of municipalities in 1843. What a wonderful person. The Grauballerman and I have distanced ourselves from each other, but we have also come closer to each other. It doesn't matter where we come from. I have branches in defense of the hillside. Nights and days have ended. Let him in. We are not just cattle to each other. The skin of the scars is healed like souls. The rotten fruit, bronze 8 shoes, and the statue blue pines, blessed waiting. Well, 300. Well, 300 years of peace this person once had. That must be the people's expectation of 300 years of peace with one and same person. Put another way, that you can achieve peace through a person. Well, 300 years of peace this person once had.
Well, Poul, can you read us one more, and then we have to call it a day. It's been an honor to have you here, sir. Wonderful to hear you read your work. We got time for one more.
Orpheus, Orpheus, my gravity is not what it has been. When I see myself as a changing season, the blind spot when I speak, I turn around like a square in the air, whose crumbling corners of a grid is freed from sense, a movement around horror. Something will fall before it will emerge again, a room not yet created. I step up the hill towards the nearest being, where the last century shows the way like a burnt arrow on the asphalt between the house. Orpheus, min tyngdekraft er ikke, hvad den har været, når jeg ser mig selv som en skiftende årstid. Det blinde punkt, når jeg taler. Jeg vender mig om som et kvadrat i luften, hvis smuldrende hjørner op ad et gitter er befriet fornuft. En bevægelse og en rædsel, en rest af et fald, før det bliver til genopstigning. Et rum, der endnu ikke er blevet til. Jeg træder op ad bakken mod det nærmeste væsen, hvor det sidste århundrede viser vej som en udslidt pil på asfalten mellem husene.
Well, sir, thank you so very much. I'm so glad you could join us today. Wonderful to hear you read your work and to learn a little bit about you. Well, thank you. I hope spring comes to your island soon. And you have a wonderful day, sir.
You too. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Okay. Bye-bye.